World building, the art of breathing fictional universes into life. You can conjure a mountain, a planet, a galaxy, even life in the blink of an eye, and they don't have to conform to any of reality's boring limitations. But where do you start? Should your first step be very big or very small? First of all, art has no inherent rules, so if anybody tells you, you need to start there, they're lying by definition. If you want to base your next world, novel, song, game in the smell of an egg salad you dreamt about 3 weeks ago, go for it. Nobody can stop you. Show them the power of dream egg salad. But if you're a little uncertain and you're looking for tips, here's something that might help out. First of all, stop. And let's step back for a second. Before we delve into world building, let me remind you of the joy of writing. Let's say I'm inviting all the people watching this video here to write a scene describing it. How would you write it? Everybody would use the same dialogue lines. Sure, fair enough, you can't escape it. But what happens in between the talking? Perhaps you'd focus on the movement of my hands. Perhaps you'd mention that my mannerisms remind you of a friend or somebody from TV. Perhaps you'd write about something completely unrelated to me and what I'm talking about. But the human brain is powerful, and your readers would immediately establish a meaning bridge. There's no right or wrong here. All of those options are correct in their own way. They all generate a context for the scene. The only wrong option would be to do everything, absolutely everything, to describe this scene from every possible angle and exhaust all of its options. The scene itself would be unreadable. And that's the joy of writing, the selection, dictating the focus. You can approach a scene from any direction you want. Come, my readers, I shall guide you. First we pay attention to this emotion here, and then we're gonna pay attention to the expensive furniture, and in the end I'm gonna take you to an old memory. You get to choose the focus of each beat of your writing. That is the art, the craft, and the fun of the writing process. If we all write about this tree here, you might start your paragraph exploring color theory. I might start writing about the trees in World of Warcraft, and somebody else might start talking about microbiomes. How cool is that? Here at this point of the video, I could gently bring us back to world building, but wait, not yet. First, let's talk about writing versus good writing. What does it mean to be a good writer? Let's come back to this tree here. If I start writing about World of Warcraft trees and you feel no emotion at all, you don't feel intellectually stimulated, the narrative doesn't touch you, then I didn't do my job properly. What emotional state and what ideas was I going for? Did I want to provoke a sense of bittersweet nostalgia? Did I want to create an aversion for an imperfect simulacra? Did I want to create a sense of dreamlike escapism? Again, the writer gets to choose. Good writing is the success of those choices. You've selected an emotion. You carefully crafted a series of words that would get your reader to that emotional state. The reader read them and felt the emotions. Good writing. Your art, bait, worked. The reader stepped on your paragraph and it clamped their heart. They felt things. They felt all the things you wanted them to feel. That's good writing. That's you being the conductor of somebody's internal orchestra. Side note, writing is also about ideas, not only emotions. But fiction is a realm ruled by emotion. So today we're gonna focus on that bit, okay? Even interesting ideas need to be conveyed within the right emotional landscape if you want them to work. Good. Now we can go back to world building. Yes, world building is a subdivision of writing. It's the craft of creating worlds where your stories can play out. But as you can imagine, nobody can create a whole world. And if you're currently thinking, oh, I bet Tolkien would disagree. He even created many languages for his world. Let me tell you that. I bet my right arm that Tolkien didn't think of toilet maintenance schedules in Isengard. And believe me, this world really needs some toilet maintenance. You don't have to, and you should not aspire to create an actual entire universe. Playing God is cool, but working God's day job, less so. And you're probably unqualified. But remember what I said about the joy of writing. You get to choose. You don't need to create a whole universe. You can create a critical part of that universe and let your readers fill in the many gaps. You can be strategic, intentional with what you are portraying. Okay, let's start world building from the ground up. Let me share a little tip here. One particular aspect of your world building that is not the most important one, but is one of the best ways to start a new world. It's a very useful creative restriction. First, let's find a sense of scale. Are you building a whole planet like Arrakis? Or something that feels more like a country, like Ravnica? Perhaps you're thinking on a smaller scale, like a town with an ocean view. As an example here, let's choose something rather small. Let's say a kitchen. The important part to understand here is that big doesn't mean more detail. You get to choose the level of intricacy you're gonna give to your world. And it's perfectly possible to have a single box that is better explored than an entire galaxy. Again, there's no right and wrong here, and there's also no final decisions. If you started building your mysterious lift, you can build your mysterious limo or your mysterious prison later on. But the sense of scale helps you select your initial idea. Remember, good writing is setting up those emotional baits. You want your reader to reach a certain brain state, certain emotions, certain ideas, certain conclusions. This is what you're writing about. Those emotions, those ideas, those conclusions are your message as an artist and as a human. And your words are a way for your readers to get there. Just writing anything without thinking at all about your message might work. You might accidentally write something hilarious, something touching, something inspiring. But writing about something, being intentional about your message, can work by design. If you know what your end goal is, if you know what you're trying to convey with a book, a sentence, a word, then you can test it. Then you can improve. You can figure out when it works and when it doesn't and learn from it. And surely you're not world building to explore a single idea, a single emotion. You have a lot inside of you. But you must admit that some ideas and some emotions are more prevalent than others, are more dear to you. So we start there with one of the important ones. It doesn't have to be the best one. It just has to be one of the important ones. What piece of your brand new world could get your readers to that emotional state you're seeking? Is it an idyllic village that evokes childlike innocence, one that should be preserved and protected? Is it the little ritual of sharing a sad song while lying on the floor, just enjoying the vibes and feeling a sense of soft bonding with a new friend? Is it a giant, forbidden weapon that visibly suffers as it kills and kills and kills? This is a great way to start a new world, with a sense of scale and placing that first emotional bait, making sure it's one of the main ideas you'd like to explore with your fiction. So, just as an example, one of the main emotions I like to weave into my stories is cuteness. I think this emotional state is pleasant, is powerful, and should be explored more often in fiction. Some of my favorite artists are always playing with cuteness. So we have a sense of scale, a kitchen, we have a main emotion to work with, cuteness. Now we just close our eyes, put those ideas in the middle of our mind, in the middle of our thoughts, and let them dance and turn and play around, and soon enough, a story starts to form. The toaster would frown if it could, but its big green digital eyes only allowed a few expressions. The little master had come downstairs, crossed his arms on the kitchen table, and buried his face there without a word. Toast? It offered after a few minutes. The boy didn't lift his head. Thanks, Toasty, but I'm not in the mood. Preposterous. It was breakfast time. That's how the world worked. The little master must have been in a truly disturbed state. Toast? Inquired the toaster. The boy looked up. His eyes were damp as the sink. Then he hid his face again. It's Yasmin, came the muffled voice of the boy. She's going to the dance with somebody else. Ah, Yasmin. The toaster had toasted for her before. The little master had instructed it to print a little bunny on the bread, and Yasmin had giggled at the result. Toast, commiserated the toaster. Yeah, agreed the boy. But then the toaster stopped and got a hold of itself. This was not any time of the day. This was breakfast. Master's eyes might be wet, but this breakfast could still be toasted. Ding, 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 rang the bread is ready bell thrice in a row, a most unusual sonic occurrence. The boy looked up from his arms. The toaster couldn't frown, but it could scowl. Its little green eyebrows displayed a warmongering expression. Toast! It shouted, despite its minute speakers. What? Said the little master. Toast! Screamed the toaster, so loud that the sound got all glitchy. You know what? Said the boy, standing up all of a sudden. You're right. I can't just give up like that. Toast! Said the toaster. Yes, master, that's the spirit. That's true breakfast. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna talk to her. The boy left in a hurry. He didn't have breakfast that day, but in a way, he did. On the kitchen counter, the toaster smirked. That's one example. Did you experience the cuteness I was going for? Did you feel the true meaning of breakfast? Of course, I didn't create a whole universe here. I only created a tiny piece of my world, but enough to lead the readers to assumptions. These people probably have toilets, they use cars, they go to school, they have jobs. And based on the element of the toaster, I can imagine the next interesting piece of my world. What if the car is lazy and don't want to go to work itself? Of course, the setting is not complete, but in just 20 minutes of writing, I created enough to get started, and also I gave this world a vibe. I have a good idea of what sort of story I can tell here. As I mentioned before, the whole point of good writing is to make you reach that emotional state that I was going for. So it would be super useful if you wrote in the comments some feedback telling me, oh, I got there, or I didn't get there. This is also super useful. This is how I improve. This is how I get better at writing. And hey, you can be creative. You can use metaphors and similes to describe how your heart felt. This would be really fun, actually. Thank you for your attention. If you're interested in exploring a bit further those emotional baits I mentioned, here's a video where I analyze how Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind gets to this incredibly complex emotion of empathy for nature, especially nature that looks and behaves nothing like humans. A special thank you to my patrons who fill my heart with childlike hope. And I hope to see you folks next time. Bye.